You're now listening to Mark Who 42 from the Whoniverse and beyond.
Mark Who 42 is proud to have as one of its sponsors Famous Faces and Funnies, and they are having a special event all the month of May. Free Comic Book May. You get 10 free comics the first 3 Saturdays in May, and get a free graphic novel when you spend $3 or more all 3 Saturdays. Also, bring in your Cinema World ticket to Guardians of the Galaxy 2 for 20% off of all Guardians of the Galaxy graphic novels, toys, comics, and more throughout the entire month. Enter your ticket to win up to $50 in Famous Faces and Funnies gift cards or a chance to win Guardians of the Galaxy graphic novels, merchandise, and more. Winners will be pulled by the end of this month. So check out Famous Faces and Funnies. They've got a Facebook page. They've got a Twitter page. They've got an email, fffcomics@gmail.com, located at 3020 West New Haven Avenue, Melbourne, Florida. Call them at 321-259-3575. Again, that's 321-259-3575. And always let them know that Mark Who 42 sent you.
Hello, this is Barnaby Edwards, coming to you fresh from Skaro, where I am the BBC's principal Dalek operator. And I'm coming to you on Mark Who 42, which is not quite a haiku.
Welcome to Mark Who 42 here on Krypton Radio. I'm your host, Mark Baumgarten, and with me is my co-host, Christian Basil. And Christian, we are reviewing... Well, let me think of it this way. Papa, everyone knows.
God, yeah.
Papa, that's how we... So yeah,
I was waiting for Arthur Dodger to come out
we
there.
We are going to review Thin Ice, which brings shades of Oliver to my ears. But we've got a special panel that's going to be with us. We've got Charles Martin of the Happiness Patrol and Space Javelin.
Hey, and I will never forgive you for getting me up this early. Damn
Charles,
it,
we woke you up 2 weeks ago. We're going to wake you up every couple of weeks to just get your juices flowing on a Sunday morning.
Oh, my.
I regret living on the West Coast now.
Now? Yeah,
well,
but at least you're in Canada, so you don't have to worry about certain things.
It's true.
It's true. We have Kyle Duce of the Happy Hour with Johnny and Duce.
Thank you, gentlemen, for the privilege of being on your show today. And like I said, it's an honor and a privilege being on with you guys this morning.
Well, thank you very much. And it was great of you to have Christian on your show the other week.
Oh, man, I love Christian anytime. It's an open door policy to all you guys at the Happy Hour. We love you guys.
And if you guys want to hear that, if you want to hear that episode of the Happy Hour with Johnny and Duce that Christian is on, it is on our website right now. We've also got from the Sci-Fi Sea Cruise the best and really close to only Doctor Who's science fiction sea cruise. We've got Dan Harris.
Yes. Yes. I was almost the only, and then somebody else. Well, I'm still the only.
You're still the only. I mean, since 1988, when I went on the cruise, it's been amazing. You get so many guests and so many people.
That was a long time ago, but I won't date you, Mark. I'm not going to.
I don't want to date you either. I have a girlfriend, so I'm not going to date you either. Yeah.
I had a girl said I'm doing a rim shot.
Thank you very much. These introductions could go on forever, but first, let's go to... Mark Who 42 News with correspondent Christian Basil. Christian, what do you have in the world of Mark Who 42 to tell us?
Well, all the news that's being brought to you by the Mark Who 42.net world is brought to you by iHeartRadio. Ooh, what was that?
What was that?
Internet fart.
Okay,
it was literally an internet fart.
Okay. Yeah, the internet is known to fart once in a while. I've heard that. You were saying, Christian?
All the news brought to you today is on MarkWho42.net, sponsored by iHeartRadio. MarkWho42 is proud to be part of the iHeartRadio family. Go to iHeart, download the app, and you just search for MarkWho42. You can find us. We're one of 4 Doctor Who podcasts.
Yeah, just type in Doctor Who and we're there, yeah.
And type in Doctor Who and we're there. Well, you bring it up, but we are on iHeart, and we're enjoying it. We're getting a lot of new audience members and listeners out there. But our first news article is Michelle Gomez reads The 12th Doctor.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. 12. That's all the title is. I mean,
okay, let me explain what this is, Christian, because I think if I remember correctly, the news article says, what else can I say?
That's about it.
Yeah, go ahead. Mr. Men is a classic British series of children books, and they did a Doctor Who collection, and they came out with 4 so far, including a 12th Doctor one. And Michelle Gomez, who of course plays Missy, the mistress, got to read one of them, and they posted it on YouTube, and so I thought that our fans would love to hear Michelle Gomez read it. It's a children's book, and it's not that long, but it's really good, and she does a great job. Have any of you guys heard it?
I haven't. It certainly sounds cool.
Yeah, well, go to our site and you can watch the video. Yeah.
Yep, go to MarkWho42.net and the video is right there at your disposal to click on it any given time whenever you want to.
I'm personally still waiting for that release of David Tennant reading the phone book.
Well, that actually is coming out, I think, in 2 years. I'm pretty sure in 2 years.
It's a new Big Finish account.
But wait a minute. But which phone book?
All of them. Japanese, everything.
That would take a long time. No. He doesn't have time to do all of them. We have to pick a particular.
Well, it's on different chapters. It's Big Finish. You can have the English, the Spanish, the
English.
Japanese.
So the English. I think there's in New York, and in New York there are many, many, many phone books, and in Florida there are many, many, many phone books. In England there are many, many phone books. You got to pick one phone book for him to read. David Tennant's going to read the Vancouver phone book. How about that?
That seems fair.
I think that, yes.
Let's see how bad his Canadian accent is. Let's go.
Nice. Well, as we all know, the Guardians of the Galaxy is coming out this coming Friday with co-star Karen Gillan. We all remember her as the lovely and leggy Amy Pond from Doctor Who, but exactly. She's going to be playing Nebula, and she was recently interviewed, and she mentioned how much that she misses being Amy Pond. In fact, she would have loved to have been in the episode with the Snowmen with Claire Oswald and the 11th Doctor. She just misses it dearly. Plus, she is one of those folks that believes that it's time for a woman to take on the role of the Doctor. If you want more information about this, again, all this is on MarkWho42.net. There is a link to the article itself if you want to go more into detail about that. But she's voicing her opinion. She says, it's time for the female Doctor to show up. Guys, what do you think about that?
For my part, I have always thought that, for quite a long time anyway, that there are a number of female actresses who could carry it off with aplomb. It's more a question of really a great quality actress or actor always as a main consideration. I think the biggest problem is that some of the finest actresses that I think would be perfect for the part, like, say, Tilda Swinton, they just can't afford. Simple as that.
If anybody's done a movie of any kind and has made at least 7 or 8 figures, it's not going to be in the BBC's budget for that star.
Right. But they found some great unknown, the next Tom Baker, who just happens to be female.
Exactly.
Well, go ahead, please do.
I do definitely agree with Charles. The talent has to come first, regardless of anything else. You have to have someone who can really grab the role, run with it, and make it their own. That being said, though, it may not be canon, but I was one of those people for years and years and years and years who really wished that the Joanna Lumley turn in the comedy special was not just a one-off. I would have loved to have seen her run with that.
Yeah. And her companion would be Jennifer Saunders.
Would have been really cool.
Yeah, I'd go for it. Did any of you see that movie? Did anyone see the Ab Fab movie?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, my God, that was incredible. Oh, yeah. They took the TV show and maxed it out to 100.
Well, it turns out that she thinks that Stephen Moffat really writes strong women characters. Do you think it's time for a strong woman to take on the ascending role of the 13th Doctor?
I think it'd be something new and different, and it might bring a new audience to the show that hasn't been to the show before, if it's a female character, but I have to agree with the rest of you gentlemen. I really am not worried so much of the gender of the Doctor, but the caliber and the commitment of the actor or actress who's taking on the role. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's going to be the big crux of the whole situation, is who can they get, who can they afford, and who has the talent and the commitment to take it on, because it's a big commitment when you take on the role of the Doctor. I mean, that's an iconic role. It takes up a lot of time, but I definitely don't see why they don't give it a spin.
Finally, the Doctor could be a ginger, maybe.
I still think they should get Dame Judi Dench to play the Doctor.
That'd be great. And we, at the rate we're going with the Capaldi age, I don't think it's going to last too long.
I know.
One of the reasons Capaldi is leaving is because it's so physically demanding. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I worry that almost any actor or actress above a certain age, say Capaldi's age, I think he's, 57 or 58 now?
No,
that it's just too demanding for them.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think it's our geekdom as well. I mean, we take the crux of it because when we had viewership in the UK, that was double now of what Capaldi is. And we've had this discussion before on the show that I think maybe the BBC had to make this decision because the ratings are going down. And that's due to some people saying, well, it's because of his age range, which is kind of, I still don't get it. If you have a love for Doctor Who, then it doesn't matter what age the Doctor is or who's playing the Doctor as long as they can perform it well.
I agree as well. I find it funny that for years we were accused of being sexist in Doctor Who, and now we discover that a lot of fandom are a little bit ageist. Yeah. That's not cool. I personally, I kind of like having a doctor that's older than me because I grew up with doctors that were older than me, obviously. So I just tend to favor that. But because of the way the show is made today, I can't see anybody over a certain age taking on the role. It's because of what's required. First of all, if you're not actually shooting the show, then you're doing constant publicity. And then, as Peter Capaldi says, and Matt Smith says, it's hard on the knees.
Well, I'm also thinking on this slide, when we grew up, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, gentlemen, when we grew up, we kind of saw the father figure, and we saw the Doctor being in that presence of being a father figure in our time, in our generation, and we accepted that a Pertwee, a Troughton, a Hartnell, even Tom Baker, and kind of teetering on it, but Colin Baker and Sylvester McCoy as well. We looked upon the father figure as the companions did, and the stories were written in that sense. Flash forward to 2005. Yeah. Now the audience is younger. The CGI is more fluent than...
And there's a burning desire to smash the patriarchy. So
exactly. There seems to be more of, over time, and correct me if I'm wrong, when the generations that we grew up, the parents were the icon. They were looked upon as being respectful and being the sage of the family, and no matter if they're right or wrong, you still showed respect for them. Today's TV, I can't. It's more of these, the children are looking for something that they can relate to more than they can look up to. And I keep on seeing more and more shows where the family patriarch is looking more like he or she is not that bright or intelligent. And the kids are even more intelligent. Tell me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, on that regards. That's why we're seeing this swing towards more of a younger Doctor than a more classical, older and wiser Doctor.
Well, it's part of that, and part of, I think, the show shifted somewhere along the line. I'm not sure exactly where, but it shifted to, instead of having the Doctor as an uncle or father or mother, for that matter, figure, more like a pal. And not that that's necessarily bad, but that is definitely a different tone. Has been constant in television. People of a certain age, let's say teens, for example, think of people in their 20s as contemporaries. And so you cast people in their 20s in TV shows aimed at teens. So I think the last few years have demonstrated Doctor Who going after the youth audience, capturing them, doing an excellent job of that, But now all of a sudden they've casted an older Doctor, and some fans who were going for the friend angle are like, nope, this is too much like an older relative of some sort, and so it was kind of a shift back. Veteran fans like us are like, oh, hey, this is good. But, I can sort of see where other audiences would find this a shift. And so after years and years of younger Doctors, in fact, getting younger and younger all the time, all of a sudden, we're at U-turn. Okay, I can understand that that's a bit jarring. The veteran fans are like, jarring? Oh, wait, let me tell you about the time Hartnell fell on the floor and died. That's that was drama. Yeah. You kids today with your cushy...
I don't want to go.
I know, right? I don't want to go. That's exactly it.
Or even Colin Baker's, where we hear off camera that he's hit his head against the TARDIS console, or depending on how you want to believe the last adventure and how that goes. But yeah, it
briefly regenerated into Harpo Marx and then Sylvester McCoy. It was a weird transition.
I do kind of like the idea, and I'm sorry, we're going off on a trail. I do kind of like a side note where the Doctor, at one point in his life, we've had all these glorious endings to every regeneration, except maybe one time where he trips over a rock and hits his head, like David Tennant mentioned.
Well, by Big Finish, The Last Adventure, and you'll get to know the real story.
Yeah. And I knew a plug was going to be coming in on this one. But
yeah, it would be nice to see this time if Peter Capaldi goes, paper cut, and that's it. Stub toe.
Exactly.
I'd still personally like to see them throw the reins to McGann and give him a real season, but it's probably not going to happen. But hey, guys, if you're listening and it does happen, make sure it doesn't happen till August.
Well, here's the problem. Stephen Moffat is a regular listener of our show. But Chibnall hasn't heard of us yet.
Somebody named Stephen and somebody named Moffat out there.
Yeah, we do have Stephen Moffat. I saw his ID. It said Stephen Moffat. I also saw someone who listens to our show named Matthew Smith, but that's neither here nor there.
You wish.
It's a common name.
Yes.
I've been pushing for years, if you're going to have these ridiculous year-long season gaps between proper Doctor Who, have a spin-off show. Now, of course, most people, when they think of that, they think of, I wonder if Katie Manning's busy, or, I wonder if Karen Gillan's busy. Something cool like that. No. I mean McGann.
Yeah.
Have McGann as the summer Doctor, right? For 3 months every year he's on, fulfilling his destiny, and then the show proper comes back with whoever the current Doctor is.
Just going back to the topic, do you think there's a generation gap between shows that have been produced back in the day that we were growing up and into the new generation?
There is, and I think, in my opinion, I know some fans, especially female fans, that really love David Tennant and love Matt Smith, and then when Capaldi showed up, they kind of got off the boat. And I was like, well, why is that? And they're like, well, we just, he's older and we don't like that. And I think for the particular fans I'm talking about that I know personally, I think it was more because David Tennant and Matt Smith was more like a love interest for them. Like, he was good looking and funny and young, and it was somebody that they had a crush on more than they saw as a father figure. And then I think when Capaldi showed up, it was a game changer for them, and they just didn't like the change of the game.
Well, I think this happened when Tom Baker left and Peter Davison replaced him. It was such a remarkable not so much with female fans per se, but it was such a remarkable contrast that some people were like, oh, no, this guy seems like a normal person rather than a bizarre alien. I'm leaving.
It's Tristan Farnon in space.
Yeah, exactly. So I think this has happened before, and we do risk losing audiences when you don't cast heartthrobs, but it's all about whether or not Doctor Who's a soap opera or a space opera, you might say. And I felt like, as much as I enjoyed many of the stories in the Russell T Davies era, I felt like the show was turning into a soap opera, and I felt that way again at the beginning of the Moffat era. But it has turned another page. It gains, whatever we lost in some fans, we gain in new ones, we hope. So I think it's just, there's always going to be a sea change. As for the falling ratings, they did fall slightly over the last couple of years, but I think that has a lot to do with the long gaps between the shows, and that people consume television differently than they used to. And looking at the actual ratings information, it was not a huge drop. It's just that, like I said, the show is being consumed differently now.
Yeah, I think ratings in general in the whole industry, traditionally measured, are taking a little drop because the whole fractionalization of providers and how you see the programming.
Right, exactly.
Well, speaking of programming and Karen Gillan, gentlemen, I don't know if you're aware, but our little Amelia Pond, I think it's her cousin, right?
Yes,
Caitlin
Blackwood.
Caitlin is going to join one of our favorite companions, Jamie McCrimmon, or better known as Fraser Hines, in a short drama called Sundown. And it is being directed by BAFTA-nominated film director Ryan Hendrick. And Sundown tells the story of William, played by Hines, a man in his 70s who is taken on a timeless journey through the eyes of Abby, who is played by Caitlin Blackwood, to come to terms with his own mortality. We do have more information about this at Mark Who 42, but we are very excited as to, we're not going to say much because we haven't confirmed it yet, but be on the lookout for future episodes for possibly guest appearances from Sundown.
Ooh.
Yeah,
I like that.
That'd be cool. It's always great to hear Fraser Hines getting some work besides stage work, which he already does a lot of. And, Caitlin is now 16 years old, if I'm not mistaken, which astonishes me. But there it is. And I'm very pleased to see that she's continuing to pursue acting as a career. That's great.
And besides that, Caitlin was also involved in another project, which you can see right now on the internet, called Cops and Monsters. I'm happy to say that our friend Fraser Cool has just released the 5th episode called Fight the Bite. I have to confess, he just released it, so I have not had a chance to see this one, but it looks awesome. And if you want to see Caitlin now in something before Sundown, you can go to YouTube, type in Cops and Monsters. We've had a previous episode with Fraser Cool, who is the writer and creator, and Ines Anderson, who was one of the actresses from the series. But this is a very exciting series. It also stars alumni Sophie Aldred.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's all you had to say.
Sophie.
I'm in.
Yes, Sophie did a great job in it.
It sounds fantastic. I hadn't seen any of this yet, so I'm very, very pleased to learn about it. I will definitely check it out. But I have to tell you, my money's on the monsters right now.
Those cops can't seem to do much against monsters.
If you see the series, it is basically about the monsters and such like that. I won't give too much anyway. I mean, if you have, you could probably watch the series within 3 or 4 hours. They're not that long. They're about half-hour episodes, but they're kind of cool. Of course, all I need to say is Sophie Aldred. And
Speaking of Sophie, they're still doing their free radio show podcast, Strangeness in Space.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yes.
And that finale is coming up. They just announced, I just spoke with Claire Eden, who is the producer, and they are going to be going forward with the finale. I think they're starting to record it, if I'm not mistaken, depending on when this show airs. But they do have a special guest coming up over here. Spoiler alert, if you haven't heard the series yet, the most recent series is going to be the series finale, and there was a special guest that appeared right at the end of the last episode, so check it out. I mean, there's a lot. You see, these are gems in the crown that we don't get to see. We have Cops and Monsters, Strangeness in Space, and now Sundown will be coming out with 2 Doctor Who actors coming from it, from the new and the old generation. So these things are wonderful that we just don't get to see, and plus you are around with Doctor Who with our convention tours. Of course, we'll be selling the Big Finish if you want to hear the continuing adventures. We'll be selling those at every convention, for most part, that we'll be at. We'll be announcing that on mark42.net. But check all of these fan series out. They are just wonderful and great, and something to follow up with.
All I can say to that is swing your pants.
Anyway.
Okay, there was 3 random words. That's, what? Huh?
No. That's Simon and Trev, who are on Strangers in Space with Sophie. They had a comedy routine back in the 80s, and one of the punchlines was swing your pants.
Well, I've got some video of swinging napkins, but that's a different thing.
That's a different thing, yeah.
Well, last but not least of our news articles today, Mark Who 42 is back in the running for the Spacey Awards for a new category. It's called the Web Media Provisors.
Are we spelling it right?
I don't know.
ORS or ERS?
Every time I post it on the Facebook site, it keeps spell correcting provisors. So we're now part of the polling on the Spacey Awards, and hopefully we will with your help, we're going to get it our second year for the Spacey Awards.
Oh, yeah.
This one's a little different. When you go to the Spacey Awards at spacyawards.com/voting, you actually have to click and drag this on the names. You can actually vote for more than one geekdom of your choice. So let's say there's Mark Who 42 and there's podcast B, C, D, and E. If you want, click and drag Mark Who 42, and then if you have
to the
another
top, and then put the other ones below that. Yeah,
exactly, and then you mark the other. So I don't know how that voting is arranged, or if there's a percentage, or how they're doing it, but
it's all algorithms. That's all you need to know.
Exactly. And I'm going to stress this out there because we didn't get a chance to say this the last time we did this, and I wanted to mention this at the last year. Listen to all these podcasts here locally. They work hard. I'm in Happy Hour of Johnny and Duce. These guys are always touring the convention sites, and if you listen to their episodes, it's just pure fun. You got to listen to that. And Kimmy and Riley, there's quite a few podcast people that you got to listen to. I mean, of course, listen to us, but definitely all these people work hard on their podcast, and it's not as easy as just waking up and recording this stuff, because you have to keep an audience, you have to keep marketing to people. There is a lot of this that goes on. So definitely, if anything I want to address on this is, please support your local podcasts. Listen to them often, because there's a lot of good stuff out there that is just going to the wayside, and a lot better than what probably you're seeing on the mainstream podcasts for the most part, because they're done locally, so that you have a vested interest of people who are doing it right next door to you.
Whatever subject you're interested in, beyond Doctor Who, obviously. There's about 500,000 Doctor Who podcasts alone.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up the news for this week.
All right, cool. So we're going to take a little break, and when we come back, we are going to review Thin Ice, the third episode of Series 10 of Doctor Who, with our special guest, Charles Martin of the Happiness Patrol, and Space Javelin, Kyle Duce of the Happy Hour with Johnny and Duce, and Dan Harris of the Sci-Fi Sea Cruise, and of course myself and Christian Basil. We'll be right back with more of Mark Who 42 here on Krypton Radio.
Don't go away. We'll be back with more Mark Who 42 after this.
Coming May 19th through the 21st, Oasis 29 continues to celebrate excellence in science fiction and fantasy. Oasis 29 will take place at the Sheraton Orlando North Hotel, featuring special guest writer Faith Hunter. The best way to see Oasis 29 is with your 3-day weekend membership pass. Your pass will include full admission to all the art exhibits, dealer rooms, guest speakers, writing panels, and of course, a special appearance by your favorite Doctor Who podcast, Mark Who 42. A con suite for nourishment will be available on site. For more information, hotel rooms, and purchase for your tickets, including student discounts, go to www.oasfis.org/Oasis. Oasis 29 is an event that promotes safe and fun environment for the entire family and upholds that cosplay is not consent. We look forward to seeing you there.
This weekend, 9.9 Comics at 1284 Sarno Road in Melbourne, Florida. This weekend, May 6th, is having free comic book day, but there is more to this. There's lots of free comics for everyone, but they also have new comics at 10% off, back issues 20% off, Funko Pops, shirts and bags 10% off, graphic novels, buy 2, get 1 free, Magic Booster Packs, buy 2, get 1 free, and all of their members get 10% off in addition to the discounts that they're having on May 6th on free comic book day at 9.9 Comics. If you're not a member yet, go to their Facebook site. They'll give you instructions and details on how to become a member. Again, it is this weekend, May 6th, from noon till 8 p.m. at 9.9 Comics, 1284 Sarno Road in Melbourne, Florida. And tell them that Mark Who 42 sent you.
The voice of Christian Basil, take 1.
Hi, I'm Christian Basil, and I would like to provide my voice for all your voiceover needs, such as...
Okay, like an announcer.
Like a what?
Like an announcer.
For all your voiceover needs, such as animation, radio, announcements, introductions...
Now an old man.
I can even record voicemail for all the Meshuggahs that call you.
A pirate.
Arr, and it won't cost you a lot of treasure for me services. Arr.
Creepy movie voice.
Just call 407-761-2679. 407-761-2679. Or email voiceofchristianbasil@yahoo.com. Well, how was that?
That's a wrap.
Hi, this is Arlene Tour, the character Dr. Vera Juarez from Torchwood Miracle Day, and you're listening to Mark Who 42.
We're back with more of Mark Who 42 on Krypton Radio. I'm your host, Mark Baumgarten. With me, contractually obligated, is Christian Basil.
What is with this contractual obligation? What is with
I won him in a bet.
Yes.
Exactly. Or I lost the bet. I don't know which one.
We gave him some keys into the room, and he's making use of it. Dan Harris of the Sci-Fi Sea Cruise is here with us.
Yay.
Yay. Kyle Duce of the Happy Hour with Johnny and Duce is here with us.
It's a pleasure as always, sir.
And, we love having him on the show. It's Charles Martin of the other Doctor Who show, The Happiness Patrol, and the tech show, Space Javelin.
New episodes of both on their way out. Actually, probably out by the time this one gets out. So, yay!
Okay, cool. So the Happiness Patrol's back. He's feeling better. It's all worked out.
Well, it's getting there. Yeah, Lewis is still a little under the weather, but we got the rest of the gang together, and we went on without him this once, but we're going to try and get him back on as soon as we can.
Happiness will prevail.
Exactly.
Right. Happiness will prevail. And Margaret Thatcher has a terror dog creature.
What? Generalissimo Francisco Franco is still dead.
Yes, he is.
As is Fifi.
For people who didn't hear me a couple of weeks ago, the other one, Space Javelin, we keep referring to, is a tech news roundup that's out every week on SoundCloud and iTunes.
So when is the next iPhone coming out?
Well, they traditionally bring them out in September, and I expect that's what they'll do this year.
Wow. Okay. Do we have any news on what it's going to bring?
Nothing beyond the, once again, it'll be more faster.
I like that.
Yeah.
Shit.
Let's
it'll
hear
be
it
more
for the
faster,
return
better.
of the headphone jack. Not.
Expensive bills.
I got bad news for you headphone jack fans. None of the other companies have new models out with headphone jacks either. So
hey, I like putting a headphone connector in the lightning port. I like that.
Yeah.
I find that's
works
a good
great.
place to put it.
I use Bluetooth headphones most of the time myself, but I appreciate headphone jacks. But I'm afraid that if you want a thin phone, with a lot of battery, you don't get that because they need that room for all that. Anyway, the next iPhone will have new, more, better of everything. All right. There.
Let's go to the actual subject at hand. Let's go to Thin Ice. We're going to start the review with what we thought of it. I'm going to start. I'm giving it 9. I mean, it was like there was Oliver in it. I like the feel of having a season where you start in present day, you go to the future, and then in the third episode, you go to England in the 1800s. Where have I seen that before? Rose, in The World of Unquiet Dead, and several other mixtures. It feels good. It feels right. And I did, however, think that the creature that was in this episode, and remember, folks, this review will contain spoilers. If you haven't seen Thin Ice, hit pause, watch Thin Ice, and come back. The creature that's under the sea, it kind of reminded me of that meat episode of Torchwood. That's the only thing I have that was a little kind of copying.
Which made me a vegetarian for a good 5 minutes after the show.
Yeah.
Well,
but this time it's not meat. This time it's not meat, it's crap. So, it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As Dan said, it's Beast Below. There's also the fact that it's left up to the companion to make the decision is very Kill the Moon.
Can I say something about that?
Yeah,
Kill the Moon, the Doctor just disappears. And this one, he explains exactly why he's leaving it up to her. It worked much better than Kill the Moon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like I said, I give it a 9 out of 10. What do you guys think of this episode?
I enjoyed it overall. Not my favorite so far this year, but I did enjoy it quite a bit.
Have you noticed they've made the show fun again?
Yes.
It's fun this season. The Doctor isn't a miserable or a cranky guy. His facial expressions were unbelievably funny during the whole episode. This is the Doctor I think... I hate the fact that we're losing him at the end of the season. I really do.
Oh, I know. He's really making us regret his decision to leave.
Yeah.
It's just, it's awful.
I loved it. I gave it an 8. Capaldi's got a hell of a right cross, man. I didn't see that coming.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, old man's got skills. I mean, he just knocked that guy just out. So, but no, I really enjoyed it. I love the new companion, Billy, I believe her name is.
Bill.
And,
Just Bill.
Bill. She's great. I love her. And it's nice to get a companion where there's not all these extra layers of crud on top. It's just, hey, it's a girl. He picked her up. We're going to go on a fun adventure together. Let's go have fun. Like, instead of all these extra layers like the Impossible Girl, and then you had the couple with the ponds. And it reminds me of when Donna was on the TARDIS, who I loved. And I'm enjoying it thoroughly.
I'm enjoying the teacher-student aspect of it. I think that works very well in this case.
No, I have to agree with you on that. I think the student-teacher dynamic is nice. It's refreshing, if you will, just because of the fact that it seems like it's been a minute since that's been the dynamic, because there's been some romantic dynamics, there's been some brother-sister dynamics, but it's been a while since it's been the older doctor, younger companion, teacher-student, which harkens me back to old Doctor Who, which I enjoy.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of what I was talking about earlier with the changed dynamic, right? When we first got Peter Capaldi, all of a sudden, Clara, who I wouldn't have said she was in love with Matt Smith, but, thought of him differently, had to get a phone call from Matt in program to say, look, I know I'm all old and decrepit now, but just keep up, just stay with it. It's okay. So, we've shifted to you're right, a teacher-student relationship. I absolutely adored this episode. I've heard some complaints that the ending was a little bit rushed, and it was, I guess, but the slower pacing and the longer, more luxurious scenes are really working for me. And if that means you have to rush the ending out a little bit, in this particular episode, I think that was okay. The reason being that once we established that the villain of the piece was not an alien, then he's really just your stock bad guy with a side dish of racism. And there's no need to spend a great deal. We don't need to get to know this guy super well. He's like that museum owner in Dalek. We didn't spend a lot of time learning about him. All the focus was on the Dalek. With this one, I thought I really enjoyed it, although I have already mentioned that the ongoing and somewhat troubling reuse of old plot elements from other stories is it's bothering me a little, but it's so stylishly put together, and the performers and everybody on the crew are just giving it their best. So I feel like I'm complaining about virtually nothing. I absolutely adored that both last week's adventure and this one took place in between the time they left for tea in last week's episode and the time they got the tea. Nardole, again, had very little to do. He is the K9 of this season, I guess, because all he's done in the last 2 weeks is add some coffee to the tea for flavor. I loved that line. That was fantastic. And another thing I really noticed this season is they're keeping the arc part clearly delineated from the rest of the story. Here's the final scene. Here's some more arc servicing. Now we know there's something or somebody in the vault. And that's really all that was revealed. So that arc thing is playing out in its own separate scenes rather than trying to be intermingled with the story. That's a great idea. As everybody else has said, last but not least, Pearl Mackie, wow. Peter Capaldi, wow. Everybody's at the absolute top of their game here.
I'd have to give it an 8, too. The one thing about Capaldi's Doctor that I just can't get my head around, and this has been a running theme since he took the role, and I don't know where Moffat was going for this, and I don't want to say it's a callous for life, but at some point where he doesn't feel it. And the reason why is when the kid went under with his Sonic, I wanted him to grab the arm rather than the Sonic. I didn't want him to, when it came to the bad guy, then I could understand why he wanted to grab the Sonic when the bad guy fell through, but I would rather him grab the arm sleeve than that Sonic screwdriver.
Yeah.
I reached out for the arm sleeve but missed and only got the Sonic.
He was very concerned about getting that Sonic back.
He was getting the Sonic back. Right. I wanted at least the scene to grab the arm sleeve. And then when he noticed he couldn't hold on any further, then, the kid lets go of the Sonic and he grabs it and the arm sleeve goes in.
But that gives us that scene following where Bill's like, what is wrong with you? How many people have you? Why don't you care about these people? And he said, he's already gone. There's nothing I can do about that.
No, that's fine with it. I wanted, it's been something along the line, especially going back to the Mummies on the Orient Express, where the people had to be used. But I wanted him to feel the deaths. Like they were tools. They weren't beings anymore. They weren't themselves. They weren't, I've got no choice. I've got to do this. But I didn't want him to just let that be the case. And I keep on feeling that theme throughout the series, that it feels undoctorish. At least he should feel the death. And I know at some point he's getting numb to it. And we saw that in the Day of the Doctor when he's dishing it out with 10. And he's talking, I've moved on type deal. And I understand he's moving on, but at some point, I still think he should feel the death, even though he probably doesn't acknowledge it as much anymore. I mean, and then that scene with Bill would have been much more powerful, I think.
I guess he does. You're right that he does seem to be having reached a point where he realizes that he can't save everybody. But that is exactly why he keeps these companions around. And it's kind of funny that you're right. There's this scene in which I wouldn't say he let the kid die, but the kid died and there was nothing he could do about it. And then not 10 minutes later, he's lecturing Lord Sutcliffe on the value of a human life, of the value of the least of a human life.
Right.
And so how do we get these two qualities in the same person? It's
been a challenge, especially throughout his whole series, because he doesn't. I understand he acknowledges that people are human and they have a soul. And going back to the 11th Doctor, I've never met anybody who isn't important.
Yeah.
With 12, he kind of does now.
Well, I think what you're seeing is that he's dealing with them differently. I mean, we saw in the 9th and 10th Doctor, we saw a Doctor that was very scarred by the millions of people he had just killed in the Time War, and we've seen that sort of reaction before. But I think you're misremembering John Pertwee. He didn't give a crap about other deaths.
No, he didn't.
And I guess because he's been around so long, and I'm putting it in the Time War, because the first 3 Doctors were still the kids. They were still the angst teenager.
Yeah.
Who was, the first Doctor is nothing compared to the 11th Doctor in the way that he interacted with people. In fact, the first Doctor kind of almost emulates 12 as far as, it's not that important. Whatever. They're just weird.
In the first episode, the first Doctor tries to kill someone directly because they're a threat.
And Chesterton stops him. Yeah.
So, and there's this long argument, fan argument that can be made that the Doctor has, that the Doctor was a very young man at the time, and so even though he looked old, he was actually very young, and so he did foolish things like that, but he grew up over the course of the series. Yeah, now I think we're at the point, I'm not necessarily against this idea that we're at the point, he's 2,000 years old, as he keeps saying in this most recent episode. So he's seen it all, he's done it all 100 times before, and I don't think he thinks less of humans, but he understands that there's some you've got to let go and just walk away from. Can't save everybody.
No, and I totally agree with that ideology. I still want him to feel it, no matter how old, no matter how long it's been. I mean, he gave his own life to save Wilf, who was 80 some odd years old.
Yeah.
But he still felt that it was important for one man, even with, not that long to go.
Yeah.
That it was important to him, and it was his honor.
I think that, this is one of the reasons he keeps companions around in the first place. And in this particular series, interestingly enough, Nardole is acting as his conscience. Yeah. And so, I think it remains to be seen. Let's see how this plays out over the season, but I think it remains to be seen that he'll bring the feelings back, but he's not a kid anymore. And he's not going to act like a kid.
I just think of him being 2,000 years old and seeing so much at this point. He cares about life, but like she asked him, how many people have you killed? And he's like, I don't know. I can't count that high. He doesn't remember how many people he's killed directly or indirectly. So at this point, it's got to be some serious PTSD kicking in there somewhere. So
Okay.
Well, he's come to grips over the years that he's always going to do the best thing and the right thing, but he isn't always going to be able to save everyone. Hence the joy and surprise when Eccleston's doctor said everybody lives, because so often he can't say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has anybody heard of the Big Finish audio, The Resurrection Mars, with the Eighth Doctor?
No.
Okay. There was a situation that was very similar to where he had to make a decision to save Lucy Miller or let all of a bunch of people die on a spaceship that crashed down on Mars.
Oh.
And it ended up that he saved Lucy Miller. And the, spoiler alert, sorry guys.
That was a spoiler alert. Go ahead.
The Ice Warriors end up killing all the humans on the spaceship. And Lucy Miller goes back to the Eighth Doctor and says, why would you do that? Why would you choose me over all those people? And he comes to terms with and grips with and just basically says, listen, they were going to die anyway. There was nothing I could do. And you're my responsibility. And that was the first time ever I took it back to what I'm feeling right now with Peter Capaldi, Doctor, where it's not callous. It's just that he had to make a decision. It was a decision that anybody else would have said it was wrong, but that was it. There was nothing else he could do and had to make the choice. I'm sure he felt it. And he did, with Lucy pounding it into his face, just like Bill pounded it into his face. You know, how many people died? You know, he goes, I made a decision. I had to do this. This was it. They were going to kill them anyway, and there was nothing I could do about it. So here was the choices I had to make. In the same way that the Orient Express took place.
Yeah. Well, this is the part of the problem, is if you care too much, you hurt a lot. And that can, I'm not advocating for this, but that sometimes means that you have to make those kinds of decisions. But as you're just pointing out, this isn't new with Capaldi. I can find examples of this throughout the history of the show if I sit down and look at them. But one of the interesting things about the Doctor is that he's a very different man each time. And so his emotional commitment to saving everybody clearly has wavered over the years.
I agree. So let's talk more about the episode in general. The whale-like creature, the alien below the Thames, has been there for the duration of recorded Sutcliffe family history. And they've been using it for fuel all this time. Sutcliffe had a point when he was talking about coal mines. And coal miners do die. So now, I don't want to be the one sending people to their death by being eaten by this creature. But morals don't actually work sometimes in the real world. And I hate to say that. I mean, with the governments we have in this world today, do you think that if the Doctor hadn't stopped Sutcliffe, and we just found out that our fuel reserves, and we're getting all this fuel and rocket fuel and car fuel from, and it is a fossil fuel, kind of, because it's like a dinosaur kind of creature, would we morally stop Sutcliffe if we just found out about it? Do you think the world would stop Sutcliffe from what he's doing?
Well, in the real world, you can't, the world gets to be steered like a cow. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We are ourselves transitioning from fossil fuel into alternative fuel sources. So I'm sure that is very much the metaphor that's going on here. We are, instead of relying on animal remains, essentially, we're trying to transition to other forms of fuel. But it's going to take quite a while. I'm very pleased at all the progress that we've had so far. But anyone who grew up in the 60s and 70s thought this was going to happen by the late 80s latest.
Right.
So there's even a show on the Fringe Circuit called Where's My Flying Car? And,
where is it?
Where is it? Where's my personal jetpack? Where's teleportation?
I want my flying car. I want to get to work sooner than later.
Exactly. So I think, I definitely think that metaphor was there. In addition to the recycled plot elements I mentioned earlier, this is yet another story in which the Doctor infers that creature may very well, that creature may very well. Was that my time limit? Sorry.
Yeah, no, we're not playing just a minute. You still have 30 seconds. Go ahead.
This is yet another story. That's right. This is yet another story in which the Doctor infers that the creature will eventually become the Loch Ness Monster. In fact, he actually calls him the Loch Less Monster. which was a clever line because, of course, he's in the Thames, which is a river and not a lake. And so, yeah, very cute. And that he's going to swim north and find colder waters. Well, guess where they have colder waters? Oh, yes, Scotland. So, yeah,
Well, now we got 3 Loch Ness monsters.
Yeah, how the Zygons are going to feel about that, I'm not so sure. But all that aside, it was interesting because we do make a lot of products out of animal remains, if one form or another. So there was also a broader commentary there that I'm sure had some vegans punch in the air. But the
bringing up the meat episode of Torchwood again.
Yeah, I liked that that the monster poop was Soylent Green, essentially.
So we've had 2 episodes of Soylent Green.
Yeah, we have. Yeah,
in a row. Yeah.
And you brilliantly, I hadn't noticed this, but you're absolutely right. Talk about a reboot of the show. First episode, largely on Earth, and then we whisk off to the future, and then we whisk back to the past. Mm-hmm. It is exactly like, series 1 in 2005.
The pilot,
Yeah. So that means I guess that means next week, farting aliens.
Yeah. Yes. And this show has preceded that by having the internet fart on it several times. So there we go. Mark Who 42, we bring Doctor Who to you before it happens.
That's kind of a worrisome since the episode is with Hercule Poirot, so I don't know how that's going to gel.
Yeah.
Agatha Christie farts. New episode.
I'm so sorry I had beans for lunch.
You killed him in the...
Say that with a smile.
Okay.
Nevertheless, I would just point back to, although some of these elements seem awfully familiar to veteran fans, I just feel like they're beautifully put together. And really, I would, we joked about somebody reading a phone book earlier. I would sit and watch Peter Capaldi and Pearl Mackie face off on that phone book anytime.
I want to play a little clip from the episode. I want to play the speech that Peter Capaldi gave to Sutcliffe, and then I want you guys to talk about that.
Human progress isn't measured by industry. It's measured by the value you place on a life. An unimportant life. A life without privilege. The boy who died on the river, that boy's value is your value. That's what defines an age. That's what defines a species.
Well, I'm at Sutcliffe, but he's right. That was an awesome speech that he gave about humanity. And today I think we're kind of seeing a reflection of that. How do you live in a world where somebody has zero tolerance or care about anybody else on the planet? How do you cope with that? And in some cases, there's some people who have that projection on people who don't even have that. It's kind of a catch-22. Okay, if you did this, then you've got to be heartless, or you can't care, you don't have any compassion. Or vice versa, you have Sutcliffes who are genuine, who are like, it's all about me. When it comes right down to it, it's about me, my family, my generation, taking care of myself, and that's all I should care about. And I think this has been a societal issue since this past election, and I think just in life in general, because you do kind of have two, and I hate to get into this world because I've been trying to stay out of it for a while, but kind of a political faction and ideology when it comes down to the Bunsen burner. What's more important, yourself or the community? Or, the individual person and the ideology of the individual, or the ideology of the community itself.
It takes a village to raise a child.
Correct, but you also you can't focus on the weakest link. Everybody has to be strong.
Yes.
For that link to Braille. And even with the weakest, if you're not going to take the time to fix that link, or if you're, what do you do with the link when it doesn't want to be fixed? If it's its choice to be weak.
It kind of all comes back again to the Doctor having been around so long and seen the big picture that even though he's fighting for humanity as a whole, he still has to realize that certain individuals in humanity are a whole. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, well,
if you have to look at the big picture, and that's one of the things that probably makes him so sad about the fact that he can't save everyone every time.
Yeah, if you come around to Henry Van Staten, if you come around to Hitler or Sutcliffe or, some of the more classic villains, at what point do you say, how do you coexist in a world, in a universe, in a reality where the ideologies are so skewed, but there is a defense for both ideologies? There is a defense for the community as well as the individual.
Yeah. And this is the question Western civilization has been wrestling with all this time. But what I find funny is that the Doctor is really, he's taking that speech is just a gorgeous, gorgeous piece of writing.
Oh, it is.
And Capaldi delivers it beautifully. But it is being said by a character who, in his own way, is just as callous. You just mentioned an example with the McGann Big Finish audio. So it's kind of, I wouldn't call it hypocritical, but it's funny that the Doctor is facing a slightly more radicalized version of himself there in Lord Sutcliffe and can't stand it. This has been an ongoing thing in the show that every so often the Doctor peers into the face of real evil, and he can't quite always look away. So that's one of the reasons why he needs the companions and so on. I'd also like to point out that although a lot of Americans might recognize certain kinds of people in the character of Lord Sutcliffe, this is also something Britain is going through on a very, very deep level right now. They're really looking at themselves and saying, who are we as a people? We're not the same as we were 100 years ago. So when I was watching the episode, I really saw a lot of the current British government, the whole Brexit thing, the whole, there was a lot of metaphor to the current political climate in England.
Yeah,
I think it comes, this country could be said the same thing with Sutcliffe. You could put that reflection up.
We are again, America is certainly debating who they are, how much of a community it is anymore, or is it just a bunch of individuals? I wish I could say that Canada was unaffected by all this, but we do. I have to say, honestly, if I can brag on this country for just a moment.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
For you listeners, I'm in beautiful Victoria, BC, British Columbia. Come up and visit sometime. It's lovely. Anyway,
you have a spare room?
Yeah, we don't, but we have a couch and we have a lot of places to stay. Anyway,
that's good.
The point that I was going to try and make is that Canada does seem to still have what I'm going to call that culture of kindness that I remember from when I lived in the United States. And, of course, I'm not there firsthand all the time to see it personally. And on the ground, I think you'll still find a lot of caring, a lot of really lovely human beings in all of these countries. But the government and the societal picture is changing, and all of these countries are wrestling with that to a greater or lesser extent. Fortunately, up here in Canada, it seems to be going a little smoother than down in the States or in England, but that could change at any time. We live in turbulent times. And I think this episode very nicely kind of reflects on that.
And Doctor Who has always had political commentary and social commentary wrapped around a story, or rather within a story.
Some of its best episodes are very political.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I'll tell you what, I kind of want to talk about that door at the end, because I did a lot of research last night, a lot of freeze framing, and it looked like there was Gallifreyan on that door.
Yes. Yeah, I think you're right.
Funny. That's a good thing to bring up, Kyle, because does anyone, now that, of course, that they've spoiled that the Master is coming back and John Sim is coming back, could John Sim be behind that door?
I can't see the Master ever staying put for that long, so I'm going to say no on that.
No, okay.
I thought it was either going to be the Master or it's going to be Missy. I figured it's got to be one of the two.
I think those two are the characters that will cause this vault to be opened. But as to what's in there, that I couldn't say.
I personally think that one of them is locked in there and the other one's going to come to get them out.
Yeah.
I have two opinions about this one. And one, I'm graciously saying I'm going to take off the internet. And it could be completely stretched out, but I'm going to try it anyway. There's one opinion that thinks it's the Doctor's watcher and that he's not ready to change yet. And that's why he's avoiding it. That's why he's locked it down, because he's not ready to do the change. And I think that's why we kind of see Capaldi regenerating twice in the commercial episodes. Not to say that's going to happen. And the theory really can be picked and choose from, but I'm open and entertained to the idea because that could be it. The other one I'm going to throw out there, it's the classic Cyberman. It's the Mendosian Cyberman. And the only reason why I'm saying this is because Missy is with the Cybermen, and I think she's with the Cybus Cybermen. And I bet you, I'm guessing, I'm taking this on a whim, but this is the only thing I can put together with the puzzle pieces that I have. I think the Cybus Cybermen want to wipe out the Mendosian Cybermen. They're saying, we want to be the pure ones. So I bet you the Mendosians said, you know what? We want to be locked up away so they can't touch us. I'm guessing.
This is actually interesting because in the previous series, we've kind of figured out what the plot was that was going to be the overall plot. We knew Missy was the master, and then they said, no, it isn't. You know, we knew all these things, and then we were right at the end. This time, it is a mystery. We don't actually, nobody has come up with the definitive, it's that person or it's that. I like it.
Yeah.
This is...
Yeah. My own leading theory is we always have to keep going back to what Capaldi has already said, and that is that he made a promise. Now, in thinking about the promises that he's made and not kept over the course of the series, well, that's a good afternoon's work. But there's one in particular that I keep coming back to, which is he always said he was going to return to visit Susan, and he never did. And guess whose picture was on his desk? So there's also the unresolved, what I would call space junk, non-death zombie Clara flying around out there. And with Lady Me. And in fact, although this could be completely unrelated to the vault, it is a fact that they just recently, the crew commandeered the diner that they used for the interior of Clara's TARDIS, or as I like to call it, the restaurant at the end of the universe. And so they recommandeered that to shoot some additional scenes of something, you know. So we'll see. I mean, that also was the diner that Matt Smith came out of the bathroom of, I think, or so. You know, some of the other scenes were filmed there too. But they recommandeered that diner, and there is also a Raven on Peter's desk. So I have a feeling that we're going to see some or all of those referenced people, Riversong, Clara, Susan, at the finale, or maybe before. But there's something tied up with that, too. But I don't think he would keep saying, I made a promise, I've taken an oath on this vault, without it being anything that had ever been referenced before. On the other hand, this is Stephen Moffat, so yeah.
Can I add one more theory, too?
Sure.
This one is the one that I'm trying to put in my head, and I know Moffat loves to have convoluted pieces to the puzzle. Since we talked about John Sims returning, John Sims' master's in there. And
didn't I just say that?
Did you?
I think I did say that.
Christian said it a few minutes ago.
Yeah, but that's okay, Christian. Go with your reasoning. Reasoning.
Okay. Oh, okay. Maybe I didn't hear it. I'm sorry. And Missy is coming to rescue that master.
Yeah.
That's the other way around. I see. Yes.
I don't know why he would do that, either to prevent something or to stop something, or it has to do before John Sims' master ends up in Gallifrey, or it doesn't maybe. But I think it also has to do with the finale of Day of the Doctor. He's got to end up somehow with himself helping the other 12 take back Gallifrey.
On the other hand, I have heard a very entertaining fan theory that says that's Al Capone knocking on that door.
Geraldo Rivera's too busy on Fox News right now spouting BS, so I don't know. I don't think they can do Al Capone's vault without Geraldo there.
One thing that some people brought up is that they thought that the person knocking, or the thing knocking on there, was knocking 4 times, but I went back and listened. Knocked 3 times.
Yeah.
So it's probably Tony Orlando then.
Yeah. Or Dawn.
Or Dawn.
Yeah. Actually, didn't one of the Dawns pass away last year? I think
may have done.
I think one of them did, but the other one's still alive, so it could be Dawn. Yeah. Could be one of the Dawns. Okay.
It might, we've also heard rumors that David Bradley is going to reprise his role as the First Doctor. Maybe it's him.
He locked his first self in the vault.
Well, that first Doctor could get kind of cranky. So, yeah.
Yeah.
He's his own time capsule. I love
and
it.
Susan comes to rescue him, and that's what happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I still see, if that's the case, going to by your theory, and if Moffat is going to end on a story, and we had talked about this in the previous episode somewhere along the way, we've always had the multi-Doctor against the one Master.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
What if it was the one Doctor against the multi-Masters?
Well, yeah.
And they won.
We had that in Big Finish just recently.
I think they're going in that direction. Wait, I've got it. I know who's in the vault.
Who's in the vault?
I've got it. I know who's in the vault. It's Philip Morris. He's trying to tell us that he found Marco Polo. That's what is going on there.
And we're going to see that it's not as good as we all thought it was. Right?
Kyle, who do you think's in the vault?
Well, like I said, I think it's either the Master or Missy. I think that it's got to be, in my opinion, one of those two. I did like the Cybermen theory. I thought that was pretty good, but I don't know. But all I know is at the end of the season, I'm hoping they're going to wrap up whatever this story is. So then next year, when we get the new Doctor and the new writers and everybody, that we get a whole fresh start. Because I don't want like a lot of dangling plot threads that the new guys got to take care of.
Yeah, I'm sure that Chris Chibnall will be starting fresh.
I wish he would consider keeping Pearl Mackie around.
I wish
this is
now
a character
that
I
we've
could
seen
live with for quite a while.
Yeah, I would like to second that opinion.
Yeah, Pearl Mackie is great.
I was going to say keep Nardole.
Yeah, but Nardole, I hear, doesn't make it through all the...
I think his warranty is just about up. That was the squeaking we heard. In fact, that was probably Nardole making all those internet farts. Damn it, Nardole!
Yeah, probably. Okay, we're going to close the vault on thin ice here, and because that's about all the time we have. But I do want to give all of our guests time to plug their work. So let's start with Charles. Charles, go ahead.
Well, as I've already mentioned, every week we do a tech news roundup, rather Apple-centric, but that's only because they're doing a lot of stuff these days. We also talk about Google, Facebook, Microsoft, the usual culprits. Every week it's called Space Javelin. You can find it on SoundCloud or iTunes, and I'm very pleased to announce that the Happiness Patrol is coming out of hibernation. We're going to be commenting on every episode for this season, starting with, of course, we missed the first two, so it's a gangbuster first debut season episode, and it'll be available about the time that this comes out, more or less. And we're going to try and keep up with the rest of the season as we go. Never heard the Happiness Patrol before. It tries to be as lighthearted as possible, as positive as possible, because happiness will prevail.
Well, happiness will prevail, exactly. Kyle Duce, tell us about your show.
Basically, we're the Happy Hour with Johnny and Duce. We're a twice-weekly podcast. We have interviews with cosplayers, pro wrestlers, celebrities. We talk about everything from video games to TV, movie, pop culture, pro wrestling. We kind of run the gambit. We're twice a week. We're Tuesdays and Fridays. And you can find us at facebook.com/Happy Hour Podcast Show. You can find us on Twitter at HH Podcast Show. And you can find all of our episodes on SoundCloud.com/Happy Hour Podcast. And we're on iTunes. We're on Stitcher Radio. Hopefully, if all goes well, Spotify very soon. We're all over the place, so you can find us in all those places.
Wait. Can we do the hashtag?
Oh, yeah. There are 3 hashtags you want to put on the Twitter machine whenever you're talking about the Happy Hour with Johnny and Duce, and it's hashtag HH Podcast Show, hashtag Happy Hour Podcast, and, of course, as always, hashtag
Duce is on the loose.
Yes,
hashtag Duce is on the loose. Okay. And Dan Harris. Talk about the Sci-Fi Sea Cruise coming up.
We kind of have one of the best-kept secrets in fandom. We're about to do our 20th voyage since 1988, and we do a vacation on a full-size cruise ship with some of the Doctor Who cast and crew and a limited-sized group of fans, always under 100, often under 50. And those who want to check it out, it's online at sci-ficruise.com, very easy URL to remember. For this year, you're going to really have to hurry. We're sailing in July, but in the last couple of days, the cruise line has let us know that they're just about sold out. And you may or may not still be able to get a room, and you definitely won't get the original prices. They expired about 2 days ago. But the good news I have, especially for Charles, is you might not have to travel so far for the 2018 voyage. I won't say exactly when and where we're going, but Charles will have a very short commute. Let's just leave it at that.
Oh, lovely, lovely.
As compared to his usual commutes that he takes to Florida semi-regularly. Charles, you come back a lot.
I'm just headed down there in a couple of weeks for the Orlando Fringe Festival. I'm participating again this year. And I just want to say that I have, of course, like Mark, I've been on Dan's cruise a time or two. And I got to tell you, first of all, if you're familiar with cruising, then you already know the whole drill about that. But Dan ceaselessly works to provide great guests, amazing destinations, incredible experiences, and you're on a cruise ship on top of all that. So it's just a tremendous. If you've been to, I don't know, a big Comic-Con or something, this is the polar opposite of that. Yeah. You are fondling dolphins, you're going scuba diving, you're drinking with the people that you've seen on television in Doctor Who, and it's Dan, just an experience that can't be replicated.
Give us a couple of the guests that you've had over the years.
Oh, God, we've had so many. Well, I have to start with Sylvester McCoy. He was on the very first one in 1988, and he has been on 8 of them already. The man just loves the travel experience and meeting his fans. He's the best ambassador we have. Whenever, I want to pitch the idea to an actor who hasn't done one before, I always end the pitch by saying, ask Sylvester McCoy. He'll talk you into it.
And he does.
This year, we have Sylv coming back, and I think we're finally going to get our first year with 2 doctors. We have Paul McGann, who was supposed to come last year until he got work, but he's still clear. He got a job for August. God bless him, not July. And Fraser Hines is coming back again, and we have a few cruise virgins this year. We have Simon Fisher Becker, our big blue friend.
Oh, we love Simon Fisher Becker.
Dorian is coming. And matter of fact, I'm just in the business of getting his arrangements. He brings his little electric cart with him and everything. I'm thrilled to say I found a company that will rent one that actually will fit through his cabin door. Yay!
Nice work.
Who else do we have coming? We have our old friend Rob Shearman is coming back, and he probably wrote my favorite ever Big Finish story, which was Jubilee. And a few others that you all will remember. And, of course, that much-loved Ninth Doctor Dalek story that we alluded to several times was Rob's doing.
Yeah.
And, who else do we have? Sarah Louise Madison. I'm probably forgetting someone, but lots of good times with people that you will not have to wait an hour in line to meet.
And you go to sci-ficruise.com for this.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Christian, where are we appearing in the next couple of weeks?
Well, this is just a reiteration of May is going to be a completely busy month, but I just wanted to bring you up to speed on a few new things. May 5th through the 7th, we are going to be at Atlanta, Georgia for WHOlanta, and they've just made an announcement recently, Dance on the Orient Express on Saturday, May 6th, 10:30 p.m.-ish. The dance will be taking place in the main programming hall at 10:30 p.m. May 6th, so they say you can dress in your best dapper, you can cosplay, or basically you can just wear clothing. They'll accept it out there. Also,
can you go as if you're in the Church of the People Mainframe and be naked?
You can try.
I wouldn't suggest it.
All right,
I can try.
I don't know what the rules of Atlanta are.
But I'm not bailing you out of jail.
I don't know what the rules of Atlanta are, the laws.
I wouldn't tempt that fate, especially Atlanta. Okay. And speaking of which, on their site, which you can reach through Mark Who 42, recently we've heard about the incident that took place on I-85. They are providing directions to their location on their site, just in case you are somebody who is from outside of town and not familiar, like myself, with the interstate traffic. They're providing a link to a map that will guide you from anywhere around outside of Atlanta to get there safely without having to deal too much with I-85. So that little proviso is really, really a nice thank you from our friends from WHOlanta there. On May 19th through the 21st, Oasis 29, with special guest author Faith Hunter, taking place at the Sheraton Orlando North Hotel. Again, all these are on marku42.net. Check it out. And on May 25th through the 28th, the big one, MegaCon Orlando. Ours are on their site as well. Special guest Tim Curry. I do have to make this announcement. I do apologize, but they did drop out. All of the Boondock Saints are not coming.
Oh.
They have dropped out. So just in case for people who are buying tickets, and we're trying to get pictures in advance for those. They will be not coming. However, Jenna Coleman, cross your fingers.
Cross your fingers.
Cross your fingers on her for, I guess, third attempt to bring her. And, of course, Legend of Tomorrow's Arthur Darvill, better known as Rory, will be there. And, of course, Mark Who 42 will be there with the Mark Who 42 booth and performing panels. That's all of our conventions in May. Keep an eye out for anything coming up in the summer for us, which will be markwho42.net and our Facebook page. And, of course, this will be Stan Lee's last MegaCon tour, but if he's anything like Barbra Streisand, I think we'll see him in 2 years.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because he's always had his final tour, and then he's back for more.
I'm pretty sure Stan Lee is like the Kiss of comic book artists. Like, people have like 12 farewell tours, so definitely, if you really want his autograph, get it, because I got a couple of my friends that are like chomping at the bit to go see him because they're saying it's the last time, but I've seen this song and dance before, so I'm like, yeah, he'll probably be back.
He'll be back.
On the other hand, he has had to cancel some appearances due to ill health, and he is over 90.
Yes.
So, I wish him all the best in the world. Like a whole generation of people, he was terribly important to me growing up. So, best wishes, Stan, and I hope I get a chance to see you while you're in Orlando. I just briefly mentioned that there's another Doctor Who convention called Concasterburus in Huntsville, Alabama. I'll be appearing there doing panels and whatever else they ask me to do, fetching pizza and so on. But I'm amazed at the growth of Doctor Who conventions around the country. And in particular, I'm super pleased to see that Huntsville's has gotten to the point now. They've had it for a while, but it's getting to the point now where they're attracting the big name guests. And it's going to be a fun time. So if you're in somewhere in that area, Mark Who 42 listeners, you might want to check out Concasterburus.com. I leave it to you to figure out how to spell Casterburus.
Nice.
Well, I want to thank everyone for listening and joining us here on Mark Who 42. Don't forget, go to markwho42.net. We've got the latest in Doctor Who and Beyond the Whoniverse news there. Join the Whoniverse Army. Go to our Facebook page, Mark Who 42, our Twitter page, at Mark Who 42, and our Tumblr page, Mark Who 42. That Mark Who 42 seems to pop up everywhere. We're on iTunes. We're on iHeartRadio. We're on Google Play Music. We're on Stitcher Radio. I could go on and on with this. We're on so many places.
We're like Happy Hour. We're all over the freaking place somewhere. I mean, you just Google us. You'll get the top 10.
And I'd like to thank the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance for updating our feed so that people knew who get our show from them that we are still around. It's a great thing, Doctor Who Podcast Alliance. It's got a listing of all, well, not all, but most Doctor Who shows out there. I think the Happiness Patrol is actually listed there, Charles.
Yep, and that's one of the reasons why we're trying to keep it back. The Happiness Patrol should be getting together live at LI Who later on this year, but we'll talk more about that later.
Yeah. And just to let you know, next week's show will be recorded live at WHOlanta on Sunday afternoon. So we will be talking, of course, about next week's episode. And you, the audience of WHOlanta, you'll be in this episode giving your opinions of the episode. On that note, I'd like to say thank you to Charles Martin, Kyle Duce, Dan Harris, and Christian Basil. I'd like to mention myself, of course, too, Mark Baumgarten, as we of Mark Who 42 say, movie sign!
No! That's your house?
6 of us, renting. There's nothing going on. What's that? Nothing weird, nothing alien. There's something in here.
Gotta be alien. Fascinating.
Just an old house and a dodgy landlord. It's time to pay.
Mark Who 42 is written and presented by Mark Baumgarten and Christian Basil. This episode was edited, directed, and produced by Mark Baumgarten and co-produced by Christian Basil. Visit markwho42.net where you can register and become part of the Whoniverse Army. We can be contacted by email at mark@markwho42, subject line, ? you'd like a chance to be a guest on our radio show, send an email to our Media Relations Director, Christian Basil, at marku42media@yahoo.com. You can have Marku42 entertain at your next event or convention. Go to heroesonhand.com/Marku42. Space Coast Comics is a free monthly magazine found in over 120 locations currently throughout Brevard County, parts of Osceola, Volusia, and Indian River County in Florida, and soon to be available in Chicago. Follow them on Facebook to learn more. Doctor Who and its properties are owned by the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation. This show is owned and copyrighted by Mark Baumgarten, 2017. This is Krypton Radio.